What's up, reefers? So today we're going to be talking about cycling. So Sever, thanks for again taking the time to join us today. And I'm wearing the Kiss My Rash shirt, as I've seen a lot of people wearing them this week. So I thought for this video, I'd put it on as well. So enjoy.
Happy reefing. Thanks for watching. We are waiting for some more viewers, and that will be. We can start from basic. Is I mean how we start a tank.
Yeah.
But it's also not just the starting, but how to maintain it, how to really make a diversity of different bacteria, or even to support the whole system, even the functional that the one that is already running. You can add some products from this line, and it's also good to dose it. And but generally, let's start from cycling, which is also very very important factor. And we have a tank just behind the Aaron's shoulders, and this tank uh, had this cycling, and with all these products, it seems to be a lot, but every products have a different function, and all together makes wonder.
Absolutely. So as Sever said, many of you have heard, and I've talked about before, that I had my tank cycled and up and going, and I had some issues with uranema. But as I'm getting ready and getting it going again, we thought it was important to talk a little bit about cycling. And BRS recently has done a video that incorporated a lot of these products into their cycling of their many tanks. And we wanted to just take a step back to say, what is the cycling process? What are some of the products that are used, and why would you use them? And when's the best point to start to do so? And so assuming first and foremost that you've got your tank, it's up and going, you've got your water, your rock is set, as my tank is behind us, you're ready to basically go. And so what are some of the things that you would look to do? So the first thing that we have here is the Aquaforest Biosand. And so as you can see, it is a very white, a very bright aragonite-based sand. And obviously, what sand does, and obviously there's two schools of thoughts here. So I'm going to start with that. There's the bare bottom, and then there's sand. What are some of the benefits of each? So I'll start with that real quick. So the benefit of having sand, and to be honest, I haven't done in many years. I preferred the bare bottom, but I'm using sand in this one for the biodiversity. And just because of the amount of surface area that the sand generates, it allows better stability within the ecosystem of your aquarium. All of the sand creates a diverse biosphere. And so to be able to have a greater bio balance in there was important for me to try on this tank. Versus in the past using the bare bottom, I was able to do a lot more flow, but the tank wasn't always as stable because of the inconsistencies without having the buffering capacity. And so, yeah, go on.
Also, besides all technical data, besides all the biology that create, it looks more pleasant. It's the tank with the beautiful white sand, even natural. It's a kind of it's a part of why we have tanks. To just create this dream world that we found it in some ocean in our home. So that's also
exactly. So the color of it, and if you're running tanks that have the nice ripple on it, you'll see that in the sand bed, and it looks a lot more natural. So everyone has their preference. I've gone now both ways: sand, no sand. I'm excited to put sand in this tank and to see how it'll go. So one of the questions that we get asked all the time is, to tell us about the sand itself and how to be able to begin the cycling. So I'll just share what I did on my last batch. And then what I'm going to do on this current one, and you guys can use that as inspiration. You can do your own method. So what I did previously on the 980 is I had 4 bags of the biosand, and I just went to Costco, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever your hardware stores, and I got one of the big Tupperware bins, and I pulled water from my holding tanks. Lucky to have. If you don't, you can just mix up your own fresh RODI water with salt. And after I rinsed the sand, so how did I rinse it? So I actually took it outside and I cut off the top of the bag, and I just put the garden hose in there for a couple of times to cycle out the silt that's in there. It's been pre-washed, but you will find that it has some sediment of some white in there. So after a thorough washing, I'll be honest, it took about 5 minutes per bag. Cleaned it all out until it was clear. And then what I did is I took that, drained out any of the excess water, and then I mixed it into that big Tupperware container. So I had the 4 bags in there I had a 50% water from the holding tank, and then I had 50% fresh salt water that I had made up that I added into it as well. And then what I did is each of the sand comes with 2 vials of bacteria. One is the actual bacteria, the other is the food source. Add in there, and what I did, because it was warmer at the time in my garage, I actually didn't have to put a heater in it, but I put an air stone in there, and I just used a double air pump with the lime wood, olive wood air stone. So a lot of very fine bubbles, and I just let it churn over, and I did it for about 5 days. And what I did every day is I would just take a piece of PVC and I would just run through it and stir it up. From my perspective, what that helped to do was to seed all the bacteria a little bit more evenly across the different layers of the sand, and just to ensure that my cleaning of it was as good as I could hope it to be. So after I had it ready to go, I used just a fish net, a large fish net, and I would scoop it up and I would put it into a 5-gallon container, and I'd bring it over to the tank. So the bin was on the other side of the tank in the garage, brought it forward, and then I would do half the tank, or actually about a quarter of the tank one day, let it all settle out. The next day, I would do another third of the tank until I reached the 3/3 over the course of about 3 days. And in that time, I was able to put a piece of the poly filter in there, and that just helped to pull any of the silt out, making the tank a little bit cloudy. So over those course of those 3 days, and then as I was playing with the power heads, the sand naturally was moving around. So I would go in with the stick and I would just move it around just to ensure that there was, again, an even surface area, but also to make sure there was no clumping of the sand. It is an aragonite based, so you want to make sure that it's nice and loose as it goes into the tank. So after about a week, it all looked, a couple of days, the tank was crystal clear. Super happy with it. I had no fluctuations of any of my parameters in there. The pumps were going, no sand was blowing around. So I deemed that to be a success there. So that was the first thing that I had.
I'm glad that you say that you divide the adding the sand in different days. This is important. It's not super important, but let's say it's a good practice to add the sand. Oh, maybe I lost the signal.
You're dropping in and out, but you're back now. We're having some technical difficulties here.
I'm here again.
Yep, you're back.
Can you see me? Okay, sorry, excuse me. I needed to change the Wi-Fi network because I'm in a different room. But anyway, so I like to say that it's very important to divide, to not add the sand and add water, or just dump all the content of sand. It doesn't matter if it's Aquaforest or any tank that is calcium carbonate, and just to prevent the precipitation of calcium, which can happen if you dose in the one moment. It doesn't matter really which sand is that. Just all natural sand that could have this effect. So there's effect. So it's better to just dose it gradually, not at once. And it's like with salt. It's better to add it to the water, not the water to the salt.
Yeah, and so that's how I first did the sand. Then the next part is, and some of you may have seen some of the pictures, I had 2 of the Aquaforest media reactors. And while it looked funny, I actually filled them with the Life Biofilm. So what is the Life Biofilm? So that is a pumice-like substance that is very light, very porous, but is already impregnated with bacteria. So the bacteria is grown in the lab, and it's shipped moist. So once you open it, you'll see that there's a little bit of moisture in there. So it keeps the bacteria alive. But what I did is then I filled up those media reactors with the Life Biofilm and actually put it right into the tank. I stuck a power head onto it, and I just let it blow right onto the rock. And every couple of days I would move it around, basically just to help to further the biodiversity of the bacteria to go across the surfaces of the rock. So after about maybe a week, 2 weeks of that, then I actually pulled them out and put it into the sump. And so for me, it gave me that better peace of mind that I was getting a broader distribution into the tank. Then from an aesthetic perspective, I put it down into the sump where I could then continue that process. And in fact, I added another layer of foam on the top of it, and I added some carbon to it as well, just to polish the water a little bit. And it was super.
Of course, you did it as it should be, but generally we don't need to do that. You can put it in the sump somewhere. It also will be beneficial, but of course, that's what you did. It's more effective for sure. And the live biofill, it's a unique product that you probably I'm not aware there are such products on the market that you have media, very porous, of course, and very light and clean, but already with the settle in the bacteria. Usually when you have products on the market, you have a media, but it needs to be, populated by bacteria, let's say like that. And just that's take time, sometimes a month or something, much more than this. And this product, when you put it in the tank, it's work immediately after. So it's dramatically accelerate whole the process of maturation.
Exactly. Yeah, and so again, that was my hypothesis about putting it in the reactor in the tank. I didn't do any tests to see any volume. I may do that for this one and send a sample out to Aquabiomics and have Eli test it to see if there's a higher concentration faster. So, but again, it worked for me. I was curious to see what it would do, and the tank was able to cycle incredibly quick. And I think that that's part of the reason why. So the next thing that I did is I used the life biosource. So I've been a huge fan of the Aquaforest life source for a long time. And what I did in two things. One is I took about a quarter of the bag and I actually put it directly into the tank. And so yes, it will cloud the tank because it is, a muddy material, but there was nothing in there and I didn't mind. But the other thing that I did is I actually used one of my old containers, the cylinders, and I filled it halfway. Then I put some of the life biofill in it, created a layer. Then I added the rest of the bag of the life source, and then I topped it up with about maybe 1.5 inches of the biofilm. So and I put that into the sump in one of the chambers. So any water that would flow into it, it wouldn't blow the mud everywhere, but the biological would be able to move out through into the water. And again, after about a day, the tank itself cleared up. That filter sponge that I had in there was able to pull out any of the fine particulates. And I was able to get on a continuous basis the bacteria, the microflora and fauna to actually go into the aquarium. And I see there's some question on here. Do I think it was successful in cycling? Absolutely. And not only in my experience, but the folks at BRS included it in one of their tanks. And they did the testing with Aquabiomics, and they indeed confirmed using the life source did speed up and accelerate the cycling process, not only from a speed, but also the duration of longevity of the bacteria, but the volume and the variety of bacteria as well. So pulling from the ocean in this really helped to complement the other products to cycle the aquarium. So if you ask me, there's definitely, the combination works really well there. But for me, I didn't also stop there, right? And so you can see as part of our line of products, there's the BioS and the ProBioS and ProBioF. You can kind of see those here. And so the BioS in particular is used as a nitrifying bacteria for the startup process. So what does it do? So it breaks down the ammonia and helps you to begin to move through in the natural nitrification process. So if you don't seed the process, many folks would put in a piece of meat or shrimp or something in the tank, and that'll help to build the ammonia and you can kickstart that. With using the other products here, I didn't have to seed it with any protein-based product. The bacteria is already there. Now I'm just being able to help to balance out the nitrification process with ammonia reduction of the BioS. And then what I did is
you recommend to dose it around 14 days, just from the starting all the process. 14 days helps to close the loop, the nitrification cycle. But of course, you can dose it a little bit more as well. We just recommended at least 14 days to do it. But this product generally, we recommend to dose it every time that you make a water change, which also will replenish this bacteria, nitrifying bacteria, and it's also good for the system.
Correct. So just reading the package, and you guys can see yourselves, but it says for easy aquarium setup, creates a perfect environment for nitrifying bacteria, fast aquarium maturation and nitrification process. And it's also ideal for water changes as you're beginning to change it out. In terms of dosage, it's 1 drop per 100 liters or 27 gallons. So this bottle is 50 milliliter and it'll last you a while. So 1 drop per 27 gallons. So reading the instructions, I said, I got it. That's a good baseline. What did I do? So I actually did it 2 times a day. I did it in the morning when I woke up, and I also did it in the evening. And again, the tank is next to a window, so I know that there's going to be a photo period in there for the bacteria. So I actually did a double dose of it, just me personally, just to speed it up. And instead of the 14 days, I actually did it for a full 30 days. And again, that was just part of my process, knowing that the volume of rock that I had in there in the sand, really just to make sure that things are nice and stable. But I was also feeding the tank as well. So the ProBioF is the cultured bacteria food source for the ProBioF. So they work together in combination. One is the bacteria, the other is the food source. So when you think of these,
there are some probiotic bacteria as well but it's in the dry, in the lollified, let's say, state. And so besides that, we forget to say that we also have a rock, Aquaforest rock, which is also very important part of the cycle as well. It's of course it's not necessary, but this rock, it's not just a piece of cement. It's a real filtration media, because it's very light, very porous. So bacteria can settle down on this rock, and it's also a biological media, to start to help after the process and to be more effective as well.
Exactly. So that was part of the reason why I increased the volume of dosing to 2 times a day, and the duration. Instead of 14, I did it for the full month. Because of the 3 boxes of rock that I have in there, I really wanted to make sure that all of, not just the top surface area, but some of the internal surface area was able to absorb it, create its own biological processes naturally, and then from there be a little bit more successful. So again, that was just what I was able to do with the products. You can follow the instructions and you'll have success out of it as well. But I just wanted to be extra safe. So after that 1 month time, I was able to bring some of the old biological media from my holding tanks that were in my old tank into the system. And I saw that within that month's time period, that I'd gone through completely the nitrification process. I sent it off for ICP testing. I had it gone to Aquabiomics for, again, a biological base to it. And I was definitely ready to go. And then I added some fish, and that's where my problems began. But in a general aquarium, you'd be ready to go after that time period, once you've been able to reach, the numbers that are satisfactory, and be able to, again, add some corals to it, add some fish to it. And again, there's 2 schools of thought in terms of what to add first. After really thinking about some of the stuff Jake Adams and others have talked about adding coral earlier, I added a couple pieces into mine. I took them out after I had the issue, but because of the coral itself has the bacteria on the rock, on the base and stuff, you're naturally going to add more biodiversity to the aquarium. So again, some of the newer schools of thought are add coral earlier, as once your levels, your tank is stable, you will continue to accelerate the bacteria population and the biodiversity. If you're not comfortable with that, it's fine. Add your fish, go slowly, build it up that way. And then when you're comfortable, add the corals to the tank. But I will tell you, I didn't have my light on for that first month, and I had 0 hair algae. I didn't go through the uglies at all. And then when I did put the light on, it was only at 10%. And at that, I added 5 crabs to it. I had the red leg and the blue-legged hermit crabs. And it was more than enough for them to go and eat everything without having to go and scrape everything on a regular basis, because they took care of it, and almost 0 uglies. So for me, the longer you can leave the lights off, the better that you're going to have.
So I exactly passed through the same process in my home tank that I have, because I have a big one that I probably, it was like 18 months ago, maybe 2 years already. We start the OceanGuard tank, the second one, 435. So I have the same experience. So I honestly, I was kind of surprised even that I didn't have this ugly face. at all, just a zero. I don't know, maybe it was like just I also make some small water change between the tanks, the natural one, the
Hmm.
matured one, but generally, uh, I know that some cases that it's sometimes it's worse when you change the, between the tanks, the water, but in my case it was very small water changes. But anyway, I didn't have any ugly face, but maybe I had the chance somehow. But it's I cannot scientific prove it that will be in every tank. But our customers have the same experience that we observe, that it's very mild, mild, like this process, this ugly phases. And I would like to ask, because simultaneously we have a transmission on the Aquaforest group, and I have some from Adam Gavron, which say hello. So say hello. He said that he have a sand from Aquaforest is amazing, and I agree. I like it very much. The color and all this, all the process. I have it in this tank. In the other one, I have 2 years. I have it still white, and they have a small dark shelf. The shelf. Sorry, the
Yeah.
shell inside. So it's look really natural. And you can see it in the packaging when you will buy it. Before you will buy it, you can see how it is. Maybe I have a light here. It's not so much white because it's like a natural, like
You're
a
like
white
warmer
balance
light.
is more warm. But anyway, it's very light. Oh, you have it here. It's more light. And the structure of the sand, it's the best, in our opinion. It was the best ratio between the how thin is it and how how heavy it is. So you don't have so much problem, with flying sand around the tank if you have a strong current. Of course, if you will direct your circulation pump on the sand, that it will flow away. But in normal condition, even the strong sand should not move it away.
Yeah, and I think one of the thing on the sand, and I can open it if people want to see, is it's actually relatively flat, right? A lot of sand is round or oval. This one is pretty flat, so from a density perspective, it helps to stay lower and on the ground, as opposed to when your power heads hit it to move in the air, just because of the natural shape of it as well.
And I remember that you said about the whole process, how we prepare the sand. So it's just the sand, but you have a special treatment that before you add it in the tank, you add the bacteria and the like a food source for this bacteria to the sand with the water. You keep it, you leave it for 24 hour, sometimes a little bit more in the warm environment, and the bacteria will settle down on the tank, on the sand itself, and then you will dose it. So that's why it's biosand. It's because we have we prefer not to have it live and keep it live in the bag, but we prefer to add it and to make it alive, before you will add it in the tank.
Yeah, and the benefit of that, it comes in a 7.5 kilo bag. If you add the water to it, like some of your other brands have, the live sand with water, you're just paying for extra weight when you ship it. So this allows you to have all the sand without the water cost for shipping, everyone these days. So, but yes, I added in because, again, my garage was warmer. I didn't have to add a heater to it, but I did it over the course of those, 3 days. And that really helped, having the population grow in that bin and slowly then moving it in to the tank. And again, because I had pre-cleaned it and it wasn't dirty and silty, when I put it in the tank didn't go all white and cloudy as well. So that was a real advantage for me.
Okay, so I have another question that was maybe a little bit, but anyway, Pablo Castro asked, what heavy metal does contain IF life source? So we tested on many batches that we import on ICP test, and they contain certain elements that are naturally available in natural environment, and it's not they don't have any let's say excess of any heavy metal that are not welcome in our tanks. So that's something that we'll find in the purest water of Fiji, where we collect the sand, and it's natural by bacteria, by all the micro and trace elements, and all that you find in natural environment that that really healthy will helps you, because we observe when you dose the life source the population of copper pots rise as very, very, very much. And it was everybody who use it, this just tell us, oh, I have so much life, that small things that are just developing very fast. And there is something in this biologically loaded that really helps this this all the natural process of biological diversity and start a life go on in our tanks.
Yeah, I posted in my story a while back that I actually had little shells that were growing, that bubbled to the surface and started growing in out of the sand, and feather dusters. It was like a source of feather dusters just growing in there, that were just came naturally from the source in Fiji. And so going back to Pablo's question, nothing is added to it. It is naturally collected, no other touch, adding, subtracting anything in it. It is as it was collected. So, and I think that for me, the benefit of the flora and fauna that comes out of it is better than adding anything in a bottle that I don't know what it is, and it complements the rest of the Aquaforest line very naturally to me.
Yes, and I also read in some I saw some programs about the mud that it's on the mangroves forest that is collected there. That's a natural filtration from any contamination that you find in the water. And additionally, it's a most concentrated element, the most concentrated how to say substance on bacteria on Earth.
Yeah.
And it's natural. I didn't know that before, but it's really have great potential to add biodiversity in our tank and just develop the right bacteria that we find in nature.
Yeah, and so many of you have seen, and we've talked about it in other ways, the various methods of dosing the life source. And by all means, you can add it to your tank, take the scooper in, close it up when you're done, and that'll work. And you'll notice within the day that all of your corals will have greater polyp extension, be bigger and fluffier, and you can totally do that. I found that I was able to achieve the same thing by keeping it into my sump without having to necessarily add it to the tank if I didn't want to. I still did, but for me, keeping it in the sump allowed the functionality to work without necessarily clouding the tank, because I've seen people like dumping it into the tank and their tank is super cloudy, and to each their own. But if that's something that you don't want to do, you can add it to your sump and achieve the same thing, and just put it in a plastic Tupperware container and you'll see the same results.
Yes, but you can also add it. It's just like if somebody don't like it, that I understand. But generally, this pass, and the next day the water is even clearer than it was before. Probably because there are some bacteria and some other stuff in this life source. But the comments from people, from our customers, said, okay, they were shocked how cloudy it is, but next day it's like crystal clear, like the water, like there's no water in it.
Yeah, it definitely helps to clear the water, and you'll notice it the first time you try it with your corals. They will be nice and fluffy, whether it's LPS or SPS. There's the natural things in there that the home aquarium is just absorbed too quickly from the skimmers or just whatever natural processes. When you replenish that, you'll see those differences really quickly.
And so to finish that, I think we can say that we have a whole package to start the tank. That will be just everything that we'll need. So we have a IF rock, which is super nice, super good filtration media. It looks great. It looks great. It's very light, porous. So this is the advantage of if you look for other brands, because they are more heavy. And it's not just the decoration. It's look as a decoration, but it's also a biological media. You have biosand, which is the sand that will help you also. We bring you the bacteria, and it will help you the filtration. You have a life source. You have that it's a unique product that it's collected from the pristine water of Fiji, and you have a live biofilm, which is it's a specially selected volcanic pumice that is very clean, and there's no any contaminants on it. And in our laboratory, we settle down the bacteria on it, and I make a video on YouTube how the process passes. It takes a month at least to settle down the bacteria, and if they match the numbers that we look on the microscope on the exact number that we, not exact, but just the numbers of bacteria that are settling, then we allow it to go to you. And of course we have a nitrifying bacteria, which is BioS. And after the cycle starts, you can add the probiotic bacteria with the probioF as well. And this is the whole package that we recommend. Maybe we never communicate this way, but as Aaron said, he experienced a great start of the tank. I experienced the same. I know some other customers that they combine all together, and the start is very soft and really pleasant, if I can say that. Because if somebody starts, they are terrifying about what is going on after a week, 2, 3 with the tank. But of course every tank is different. But from our experience, if you have a good aero water and you follow the instruction as we just said, with the sand, with the other stuff, there's a high probability that the tank will start very smooth, very with the great biodiversity, and it will be a great base for years of well functionized tank.
Exactly. And one of the things that I do now is I combine the 2 different salts. So I use the probiotic salt and the reef salt, and I get 1 box of each and I combine them together. And for me, I found that to be the best balance of being able to have nitrate, phosphate reduction, as well as the probiotics in there, and then the reef salt to have the components necessary. So for me, I've started doing that method only since I had my holding tank. So that, now been 4 or 5 months. Previously, I was using just the reef salt, but because those tanks are kind of just more temporary, I said, let me try it. And I did full a probiotic salt, and that was too fast of the reduction of phosphates and nitrates. So I actually then combined the boxes, and to me, like, that's the perfect ratio to be able to have it just maintained. And I do weekly water changes on that. So that's the method that has worked for me, combining them. You do with, based on your goals that you have for your aquarium, but I found that to be incredibly successful there.
So it's a subject for another topic, another meeting about the probiotic salt, maybe how it works, what is the advantage of this salt versus other salts, and what is the goal of this salt as well, because that's as you said, they reduce the nutrients, they feed the corals, and we can talk more on our next meeting. And so we are thanks for watching, everybody, and from the group, from our website, from our Facebook Aquaforest group, and from the YouTube as well. And if you have any question, just tap below the question, and we'll be happy to answer you maybe later also.
Absolutely. We'll personally answer you. So thank you for, again, taking the time to watch. Philip, I see you joined and making your comment about the life source. I appreciate you being a super fan of the product. We really appreciate it. And again, yes, if you have any questions or topics that you want Seweryn and I to talk about, or you'd like to join one of our tank talks, let us know in the comments below. We're here to really just spread the information and make it more accessible and easier for you to know what it is, how to use it, and to support a healthy aquarium. So for now, happy reefing, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy reefing, and see you in next week in the same time.
Yes, next week, same time.
Yes, thank you so much.